Name's John Wardzala, Midwest Regional Manager. Been with Hope Family since April of 2018. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and now I reside in Indianapolis, Indiana. I got involved in the wine industry by spear luck. I mean, it was answering a blind ad in an Indianapolis newspaper back in when we actually read newspapers. And it was for a Salesforce trainer. Never in my life did I think I'd be going down this path, but I applied for it, got the job. I did that for about 6 months, and they said, hey, why don't you go on and become a salesperson for us? And I was doing both the wine and the spirit thing at the time, and I had a couple mentors that kind of pulled me in and brainwashed me to the wine side, and I never looked back. So it was a pretty awesome, fate happening, if you will. Aha moments. I obviously after 30 years you have a few of those, but the one that always makes me laugh the most is I was taking a red eye from Dallas to Detroit, on a plane, and it was late night, and I figured I'd have plenty of room to work, and I was working for a winery in Napa at the time, and we were going through proofing of new labels that we were tweaking. And so I set up my laptop, and back then they were huge, and I'm working, and this guy next to me, it's a totally booked flight, overbooked, and the guy next to me is looking at my laptop throughout the whole flight, and we start talking about wine and how it makes the world move and how it makes us feel and all that stuff, and before you know it, we land in Detroit, and I look at him, I go, we've been talking for a couple hours now and never asked you what you do. And he went from being completely happy and fun-loving to, I'm a CPA. And that to me was one of my biggest aha moments. So it's kind of funny, but it's pretty truthful. We tend to eat and drink better than we ever could afford to. We get to meet some of the most awesome chefs in the world and eat some of the highest cuisines along with some of the best wines. And I know I would never be able to acquire that without being within the industry. What I love most about Hope Family Wines is the fact that we're still family owned. It goes a long way in an era of consolidation from supplier level, winemaker level, all the way down to retail level. When you're with an end consumer and they realize you are still family owned and you can put a picture up of the principals and talk about them and who they are, it goes a long way. And it's not as cold, it's very romantic and brings wine to another level for me. So over the course of 30 years, you get into situations within the wine industry that can be kind of fun and craziness happens. And a lot of those tend to happen around wine tastings because obviously as people are tasting, they let their inhibitions kind of flow through. So I was at an event one time and a gentleman came up to my table who was extremely overserved. And I didn't want to continue his night for him, but he was very persistent. And so I said, all right, I got a special wine for you. And I reached underneath the table and I uncorked it. I poured it for him. And he's sitting there, takes a big nose, corked. And I'm like, how did he even know that? I mean, he couldn't smell or taste anything, but he figured out it was corked. So I ended up opening another bottle and sharing it with him. Best thing that's ever happened to me is meeting my wife and having my son. Curmudgeon on the outside and teddy bear on the inside. My spirit animal would be English Bulldog. More so because their personalities are much aligned with mine. They're very stubborn. They're a bull in a china shop. They're if you've ever had one, you'd understand how they are. But that's me in 100%. Biggest tradition we have, my wife and son and I, for Christmas Eve, we've gotten to do this, I don't know, probably about 15 years in a row, where I'll make homemade pizzas that night, starting with the dough a couple days ahead of time, and we'll make them up and however we want them. And then after we have have the pizzas, we'll sit down and watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I know it's not one of the classics, but for us it is. So my favorite band, and anybody that really knows me knows how to answer this question, except for my wife. It's still after 25 years, she can't get it right, but is Rush. The best Canadian trio ever, in my opinion. It was probably, well, it was a Moving Pictures album had come out. I was in 7th grade, and before class we were all sitting around listening to it. And my parents, as I was growing up, only listened to country music. And that was just, I had had enough, and Rush opened my eyes to what rock and roll is. And I've been a fan ever since. I've seen them on every tour until 2002. And yeah, I mean, they are by all means in my opinion, the greatest band ever. I even learned how to play bass so I can be like Geddy Lee, and then I realized how hard bass was that he writes, but it's all good. Having dinner with someone who has passed, very simple, my dad. He's been gone 40 years. A lot to catch up. Sorry. Worst chore imaginable for me is cleaning toilets. As a pledge in a fraternity house in college, that was not the job I ever wanted to do, and I got stuck with it a few times, and it's transcended into adulthood. When it comes down to it, I'll dust, and my wife will do we'll clean the toilets, because not something I can deal with.